What's up, guys? Welcome to the weekly technicals live session for January 20th, 2019. And first things first, we are going to get started and look at the upcoming economic calendar for the week. And on Monday, we have a bank holiday. So we have Martin Luther King Day. So we do have to take that into consideration. I wouldn't advise you guys trade on Monday. Ideally, look for your setups Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And if you look on Tuesday, we have some British pound news during London session, and we've got a lot of stuff coming out for the yen. So be careful if you are a yen trader. I would advise against trading the yen, at least for Tuesday, because we are probably going to get some crazy volatility, and let the markets work themselves out, at least for that pair, and then go back and look for an opportunity maybe Wednesday and throughout the rest of the week. For Wednesday, we've got some Canadian dollar news for New York session. We've got a medium impact news for London session for British pound. And we've got some high impact news coming out during Asia session for Australian dollar. So keep an eye on Australian dollar for Asia session on Wednesday, and dollar CAD for New York session Wednesday. And as you guys already know, I'll be observing British pound during London on Wednesday. Now going into Thursday, we've got a bunch of Euro news, so we'll probably see some volatility in Euro here Thursday, all throughout London session. And in New York session, we have ECB press conference and the main refinancing rate. So we will likely see a good bit of volatility and probably some pretty gnarly moves on Thursday for euro dollar, because we do have a lot of news here for that particular currency. And then to close out the week for Friday, we've got a medium impact news for euro that's for London session. What's going on, Peter? How's it going, man? So I probably won't be trading Friday, but to me the best opportunities for the week are Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, for both Euro USD and cable, so GBP USD. And that'll pretty much be my focus, but you guys should always refer to this economic calendar to see when you should expect the upcoming volatility for particular currencies. So let's go ahead and we'll move into the technicals portion of this video, and let's cover dollar index first. And as you guys already know, we have cleared out the liquidity below the market here, and we had a nice response off of our monthly level that we've had marked out. I believe we marked this out two weekly technicals ago, if that makes sense. But if you go 2 sessions before this one, we actually marked all of these levels out live. So I marked them out with you guys. And we've seen a nice response from our monthly support level. So in my opinion, I think we're going to be heading for the liquidity above the market. So 97 big figure to 97.80s will be my targets for the upside. First things first, we have to contend with this daily high, which comes in at 97 big figure. But based on the price action we've seen so far, I do believe that we'll continue pushing higher for the 97 big figure, and ultimately with a longer term objective of 97.80, clearing out these daily equal highs, and that will allow us to resume our uptrend on the daily chart and continuously keep going for our daily highs back here. Because right now we're just trapped in this consolidation, but we've come down, hit our support level, and now we've started breaking higher. So in my opinion, I think we'll just continue this move, and we'll continue above 97 big figure. And once we get above there, we'll really have the daily confirmation to look for any potential buying opportunities to take us up into the 97.80 level. So I more than likely will not be taking action until we get above 97 big figure. But regardless of that, we should continue pushing higher. There really is no reason for them to continue lower. Now, if we do come all the way back down here and we get back below, this low here, or more specifically, if we get below, actually we will talk about 95.20. So if we get below 95.20, then at that point we'll be running this liquidity at 94.80 and potentially looking for the liquidity below here at the 94 big figure to 93.80s. So that'll be my downside objective, which I'm not really convinced that they're gonna roll over and push this thing lower. If anything, they should just continue pushing higher for, again, 97 big figure and then 97.80 longer term, which is these daily equal highs. So with the expectation of dollar index pushing higher, we should expect lower prices on foreign currency, such as euro dollar. So if you look at this, we just like with dollar index, we marked out our monthly resistance, which is here, again, 2 weekly technicals videos ago. And if you go in there, you'll be able to see us drawing up this line and expecting price to push up there. We did that, and then we sold off. Okay, so now we've got the liquidity resting here, the daily equal lows that we've been talking about for a few weeks at 1.27. Oh, I'm sorry, 1.1270. So 1.1270 is our downside target. We've got about 100 pips until we get there. Obviously, first we do have 1.13 big figure, which is this daily low. And then from there, we'll be looking for this 1.1270 level. Just like we've seen for dollar index, I don't see any reason for this pair here to push back higher and start coming above this high. But if for some reason we do push all the way up and we get back above the 15 big figure to 1550 area, we should expect higher prices and look for a potential run on 16 big figure to 1620. But as of where we're at right now, current market price, I do believe we'll head lower, going for the 1.1270 level. Again, about 100 pips on the downside, and that's a realistic objective for me, would be to target these daily equal lows. And then once we get below there, it's going to be interesting to see whether or not they have a big strong candle closing below, or do they just wick below, take out the liquidity, and start pushing higher. If I had to kind of make a decision based on what I see here, I do think we're not stopping at 1270, and I do believe we'll continue running below this low at 1.12 big figure. Again, that will be a bit longer term. It's really going to determine how we get below these equal lows at 1270. But nonetheless, from where we're at now, I will be expecting continued expansion to the downside. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday this week, ideally, should be sell setups or sell scenarios for euro dollar, and you can look to sell it down into the 1.1270 level. All right. And now let's cover cable, so GBP USD. Now, as you guys probably remember from last week, this pair is relatively unclear to me. I'm not going to sit here and say that I have a clear read on it, because for this pair, I honestly do not. Euro looks much clearer to me, but this one, not so much. We are still trapped within this consolidation. So the fact that they've ran the liquidity below, and then they've had a willingness to come all the way back up here, and then they retested structure here, so they broke above it. So breaking above resistance, came down, acted as support, and it's continuously kind of hovering around or right above this level. And that could just be building the idea for retail that it is going to push higher, but personally, with higher dollar index, I would expect this thing to start rolling over. Now, if we do get above Thursday and Friday's high here, which comes in at 1.30 big figure, so ironic how the high formed at a big figure level, right? 1.30000. Not too ironic, This happens for a reason. So if you guys haven't seen, when I talked about, big figure levels, such as, 1.30, 1.29, 1.31, all that stuff, those are levels you would anticipate highs or lows forming in the market, significant high or lows. So in this case, we've got a daily high, and now, we're hovering below that. So if the market does trade above 1.30 big figure, I'll be looking for expansion to the upside and seeing if we can get back up into the 1.31 and potentially 1.32 levels. But as of right now, we are, like I said, just kind of trapped in this consolidation, and I don't particularly have a clear read on this. as mentioned last week, we could see this thing continue to consolidate while euro falls and euro GBP also falls and dollar index trades higher. So that's kind of my expectation with this. I'm not particularly trading this pair. If anything, I'm more focused on finding setups and taking actual trades in euro dollar. But for GBP USD, I would kind of advise you guys just to observe it right now, not particularly go in and execute trades, really at least until we have some more clarity. So if they get above 1.30 big figure, we could definitely see 1.31 and potentially 1.3150. So that's kind of how I'm playing it. But I really would like to see them start gaining some strength on the downside. So I'd like to see some distribution start coming in and see this market forming big bearish candles, and ultimately start contending with these ugly wicks and stuff in here. But particularly where we're at now, it looks like we could have formed a low, and we're retesting and could see higher prices for this. And that's why I'm unclear, because from a perspective, a technical perspective, it looks bullish. Now, if you compare that with what we see with dollar index, it's not painting the same picture. So the markets aren't in sync. At least this pair and dollar index are not particularly in sync with kind of what should be happening, right? If dollar index is pushing higher, we should see this pair pushing lower, like we do with euro dollar. But unfortunately, we don't see that here. So with that being said, we really have to assume that they're either going to continue consolidating, or we could see even higher prices. So that's why I'm more or less on the sidelines for this pair and just holding off until I get more information. And look, you can even see some of the news here. Cable bulls climb to daily highs and challenge 1.29. So it really is, this thing it's just messed up, after all the Brexit stuff, and there's just too much uncertainty with this pair. So this is kind of the price action you get due to that. But let's look at Euro GBP, and I'll also talk about why I am kind of in, two minds about GBP USD. So if we look at Euro GBP, we've seen a nice sell-off, and now we've come below our level that we were expecting for the liquidity to be ran at 88.10. We had a big, nice bearish candle closing below here, traded right into previous support, and we got a little bit of a bullish reaction here. Nothing crazy, but I am interested to see if we do get a pushback up into the 89s, potentially 89.20, and see whether or not we can find some distribution and resistance there and start selling off. They could definitely start selling off from where they're at now, retesting old structure here. But yeah, I'm really curious to see kind of what happens with this. But if we do in fact find some support and we start trading higher, right, that will then cause strength for euro, weakness for GBP. So at that point, we could definitely potentially expect lower prices on GBP, and then euro moving into a consolidation. And this is the reason you want to look at all three of these pairs, because it really gives you a clearer picture of what to expect from the markets. And based on this alone, I would expect price to continue below this 86.60 level, which is this daily low here. Now, I don't necessarily see that yet, but I'm just saying from a technical perspective, I would be looking for that, because we have already came and broke below this low. Next resting liquidity would be below here. So that's kind of my observations, but I also understand that we have a lot of daily liquidity built up above this 91 big figure. Again, with the big figure levels, you guys can see how influential they can be in the markets. 91 big figure, high, 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 sell-off, right? So they build the idea that these big figure levels are true resistance or true support, and you should definitely factor them into your trading for obviously purposes like this. But I look at it in terms of a target. So we've got 91 big figure, we've got a lot of daily liquidity built up the market has come down, taken out all the liquidity below it, traded into previous support, and now we should be expecting higher prices, right? That's kind of, from a technical perspective, that's what we should see, right? But we also could argue that we have broken below this low, and we would like to see lower prices going below the 86.60 level. So that's kind of got me in two minds about British pound, is because this pair is kind of at a key level, right? If you ask me, it's at a key level. So we could see higher prices from here, and we could also retest and see lower prices from here. And with that being said, it causes some uncertainty for both euro and British pound. Now, when you compare both euro and British pound to dollar index, it looks relatively clear on what's going to happen, right? Dollar index should trade higher, euro should trade lower. But here's the thing, right? For me and my trading plan, I really need the daily confirmations. And when I say that, sometimes people get confused, but let's go back to dollar index. I need the daily confirmations because that really gives me more information in terms of how quickly and how accurate the trade will be or unfold. So in this case, we have 97 big figure, and personally, I just don't believe that they would come above 97 big figure and then take it lower. Okay, so I'm not expecting them to come above here and then just reject and go all the way back lower. Now, it could happen because we're in a consolidation, and that's one of the reasons I don't particularly look to trade until I have the daily confirmation. Now, in a perfect scenario, what we should see is the market continue expanding up with big bullish candles. So just like we're seeing here, big, nice, bullish candles expanding to the upside, we should see them continue expanding above 97 big figure. Now, once we get above 97 big figure, we're just simply looking for a retest of that level and looking for a continuation from 97 big figure up into 97.80. So when I say I'm looking for the daily confirmation, I'm waiting for price to get above my daily level. So this is my daily level. The market gets above that, and then when it comes down into it again, that would be my buying opportunity. So I'm not looking to buy it up in here because we could very well see lower prices and come all the way back down here. So if I buy it here, my stop loss has to go at minimum right below this level on from a daily perspective. Obviously if we're on an hourly, stop loss would be much smaller, but we're looking at it from a daily perspective and what we're expecting to unfold for the week. So if I'm expecting higher prices for the week, I'm not going to get into a trade until I've had my confirmation on the daily level. So once we get above 97 big figure, then I can drop down to an hourly, look for some type of support around 97 big figure, and get the confirmation on the lower time frame right around the 97 big figure to buy it with the objectives of going higher. So once that happens, then I can go in, and I don't want you guys to think I'm buying dollar index, because I'm not. I'm selling foreign currency based off of this analysis with dollar index. So if dollar index does get above here, and as I'm waiting for the confirmation, I'll be looking for the same thing inverse. So instead of bullish, we should be expecting bearish setups for Euro USD. And that's pretty much how I use like the daily confirmation, and pretty much that is my style of trading. That's my trading plan. That's the rules that I stick to. And without the daily confirmation, you don't have that same bit of clarity. So we could see the market reject, trade lower from here. We are at resistance. We could trade lower, and we can start targeting the liquidity at 94.80. That very well could happen. But to avoid that, I just simply wait for the market to prove to me that it wants to go higher first, which it would come up here, break the daily level, right? If it's good, if it's strong, it should break above here, retest, and then we look for the continuation. From 97 big figure to 98 to 97.80 will be the trade. So that's 80 pips, right? So we'll be looking for about an 80 pip objective for the pair that we're trading, right? Anywhere from 30 to 80 pips, right? You don't want to have your expectations set at minimum 80 pips because you don't know if you're going to get 80 pips. But if you get 30, you want to close some partial profits, reduce your risk, and then you want to open up your targets for that potential 80 pip mark, right? So when you look at euro dollar, you want to be thinking the same thing, right? If we get below 1.30 big figure, okay, that leaves 30 pips left from 1.30 big figure to 1.1270, 30 pips. So at that point, we can have a 30 pip trade. Now you're probably thinking, why not just sell it in here? Well, there's nothing, on this daily chart that gives me a logical reason to sell yet. Once I have the confirmation, then we can look to sell it, right? And you could have also looked to sell it somewhere, up in here, but we didn't break below this low yet. So ideally, once they've broken below here and retested this 1425 level, which was here, I believe on Tuesday or Wednesday of last week. I'm not too sure. I believe it was Tuesday. But anyways, we came back up, we retested that level, and then we sold off. So this would have been a swing trade opportunity. Sell it here, stop loss above here, target down here. Okay. Now, for me, since I'm more of a intraday or day trader, I look for the daily confirmation and then I get on board to basically capture the same day or the following day's trading range. So if we can get below 1.30 big figure, then I know likely the next day or next trading session we will probably get below 1.1270, which will allow me 30 pips. And then based on the hourly or whatever time frame I'm analyzing on at that point, after I've got the confirmation on the daily, I can adjust my stop loss, which may be 15 pips, 20 pips, and then I'm targeting 30 pips. And then I know if we can get continuation below there, I'll be targeting 1.12 big figure. So that 30 pip trade with a potential 15 to 20 pip stop could eventually open up to a 100 pip trade because we have 1.13 big figure down to 1.12 big figure. So that would be the full move if we can get below here. But on a minimum expectation, you should be looking for these equal lows, which is 1.1270. So hopefully that gives you guys some clarity in terms of how I use the daily confirmations and really what you should be looking for and when you should step into the markets. Just because I talk about this market wanting to head lower and seek the liquidity below the market, you shouldn't go in and just sell it right away. You need to really frame your setups based off of some sort of higher time frame confirmation. For me, that's always the daily confirmation, which in this case is what I've already explained, breaking below that 1.13 and then trading down into 1270 and 12 big figure if we can get it. But yeah, you guys don't want to just, for example, you don't want to just go on a 15-minute and say, oh, we've broken, we made a high here, we've broken above this previous high, we've broken structure, let's buy it here and look for higher prices. The likelihood of you being, correct, it could easily happen and you can get right, you can get lucky, but you're looking for consistency, and to find consistency and to really become a consistent trader, all of your trades have to be based off the daily, right? You have to know where are they going in reference to the daily, and then you get on board on a lower time frame. So if they're seeking liquidity below the market on the daily and then you come down to a 15-minute, you have to start building the idea of where would they likely sell the market again, right? So when they pushed up above here and retail thought this was a break in structure because it broke above a 15-minute high, you need to look at that as simply the market trading back up into resistance and then looking to sell off lower. Okay, so you really need to start with the daily first, because coming down to a coming down to a 15-minute and trying to find your trades and do all that without the daily perspective in mind or the daily targets in mind, it's so difficult to try to have a high strike rate, meaning a high tendency of being right in the markets. But if you're analyzing off the daily, then you drop down to the lower time frames, the likelihood of you being correct is much higher because you already have your perspective in line with what's expected to happen on the daily perspective. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. I am going to go ahead and wrap it up here. So I'm going to stop the recording. And Peter, if you have any questions, man, I'd be happy to answer them for you. Let me just stop the recording.